Welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Line. We're going to be taking a look at this story here from news.com to show you exactly why I believe the Australian government hates you and doesn't care about anyone here in this country. 93 illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants, have just been released into Australian population. Now, these immigrants have been detained when they entered the country, and they were detained for several reasons like murder, assassination attempt for one person, rape, all sorts of heinous crimes, and the Australian government, the High Court, has just released them into the Australian population with only a pittance of going and having to report their location to police every now and then and wearing an ankle monitor. Now, having murderers, rapists, and terrorists released onto the Australian streets should be terrifying enough for the average day person, but when these people don't even come from this country and they are trying to emigrate here or seek refuge here from the law on their own country, I begs to question whether they need to be here at all, whether they should be deported and sent back to wherever they came from. Now, a lot of these people have been held for a while by the Australian Immigration Office, and now they've just been released in this High Court ruling. And it is an absolute detriment to the Australian population and the people who were living here and immigrated here legally and without having had any of these crimes under their belt, like rape, murder, and terrorism charges these people are accused of and have been charged with. Some of them can't go back to their own countries, fearing reprisals and fearing imprisonment from their own country. So they fled to Australia to try to get away from some of these charges, and we held them here, and now we've just released them into our communities, and we will be paying out of pocket every day for their stay here. They are on welfare. They will be getting paid minimum $550 a week, which isn't much, but when it adds up to 93 people who should not be here in the first place, that really takes its toll here in Australian people. Now, this is one of the reasons I believe the Australian government and court system hates Australians, and it hates anyone that lives in this country, and at least they don't care about us. I mean, we're suffering some of the highest inflation in the world, some of the highest fuel and food prices. People can't make ends meet at the moment, and the massive housing crisis. Half of our state and half of this New South Wales state is still recovering from flood, as we'll get a look in here, a story here. But it just goes to show you they would rather spend money on criminals from overseas than give it to their own tax-paying people here in Australia, because they don't care about you, they don't care about me, they don't care about anyone in this country unless they can get money out of them, and that's all we're good for, apparently. So we'll take a look at this news story here from news.com. 93 released immigrants to wear ankle monitor on release. Now, this story here is a little lenient on them. These people are murderers and rapists, and some of them are terrorists. One person was accused and suspected of blowing up a woman, a politician's wife, I believe, and is hiding here in Australia now on our tax dollar. A group of immigrants released from the detention in Australia following a landmark High Court ruling will be fitted with electronic ankle monitors today as part of their strict visa conditions. It follows the passing of emergency laws where the High Court earlier this week ruled indefinite immigration detention was unlawful, with 93 people to be released live to live in the Australian community. Immigration Minister Andrew Giles, providing an update on the situation on Saturday, said a significant number of that group have been convicted of serious criminal offences. From today, our agencies will be implementing requirements on individuals to report details of people they live with, travel plans, associations with clubs or other organisations, financial information or any contact they have with individuals or groups involved are alleged or to be involved with the criminal activity, Mr. Giles said. So we just expect them to tell the police all the criminal activity they're getting up to. That's really nice. I hope they follow those laws. Importantly, a breach of the reporting curfew and electronic monitoring conditions is now a criminal offence. These breaches have a mandatory minimum sentence of 1 year and a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. Further, convicted child sex offenders will not be allowed to work with children or be within 200 metres of a school, while violent offenders won't be allowed to contact their victims. Isn't that lovely? They're allowed about 200 metres outside of a school. And I'm sorry, it begs the question of why they're here in the first place. Deport them. I'm sorry, but if you come here, want to seek a better life, and want to immigrate to Australia and make a positive impact on the community and uh, areas around you, fantastic, more the merrier. But if you're a convicted child sex offender and you're a rapist or a murderer or a terrorist, I don't think we need to be importing these people. I think we should actually be deporting a lot more people, especially the ones that late have been protesting down at Sydney Harbour and places like that, calling for Palestine to be free from the river to the sea and death to the Jews and gassing Jews and things like that. I don't think those people need to be here anymore. And if they have, if they have if they think that it's a good idea to be asking for the genocide of a whole population, then I think they should leave, even if they were born here. I don't think we need those people. Freedom of speech goes so far, and I love freedom of speech, and I will defend it to the day I die. But if you're calling for the extermination of people or things like that, I don't think we need to be listening to it, and I don't think you need to be here. Mr. Giles shot down arguments from refugee advocates that a harsh requirement may also be deemed illegal as a form of extrajudicial punishment. These measures are mandatory conditions that we are imposing on individuals in the case. This will continue to be imposed as long as they are in the country, Mr. Giles said. Our response has been based on legal advice but put in a proportionate and lawful measures to keep the community safe. Federal opposition has been called of Labor for failing to prepare a response for the High Court's ruling, with emergency laws rushed through in Parliament on Thursday. During the High Court hearing, concerns were raised that the decision could extend to a larger group of 340 people being held in immigration detention. But Mr. Giles on Saturday dismissed those concerns, claiming that a group only had been in immigration detention for a year or more. So these terrorists, rapists, murderers, child sex offenders, things like that have come into this country and been detained by Australian Federal Police and Immigration Authority have now forced the government to make emergency laws, not just for them. These laws can be used on us as well. Don't forget, every time that they bring in a law, they do not get rid of it once they stop using it. Have you ever heard of a law being repealed? I'm sure they do, but very rarely. And how many of these people, 93 of these people with 300 and something more in detention, and they're getting paid by the Australian taxpayer. They get to live a free life here in Australia. All they have to do is report their location with an ankle monitor and obviously follow the restrictions of that. Whilst I know people that are homeless, I know people that can't find a rental, that are living in a caravan or living in their car. The amount of people around my area that are living hard because they can't find somewhere to live, and then these people get released onto the street, taxing our welfare system, taxing the Australian people by supporting them, because there's no way they're getting a job. These people probably can't speak English. They have no idea about the culture here. They are convicted felons. They are convicted terrorists in some cases, child sex offenders, and they will not be able to work. So they will be sponging off the government, sponging off you and me. And that's if they just play ball and they are nice. They don't go back to their old ways of being a criminal. And I'm sure if there's not enough money for them to, if they can't earn enough money there on welfare, which because they won't be able to get a job, they will resort to their criminal activities yet again. Child sex offenders, pedophiles, they don't just get better because you put an ankle monitor on them, and because they can't go near a school doesn't mean they're not going to be able to reoffend. A school is a very locked-in position where children congregate. There are plenty of children outside of schools, and I don't think an ankle monitor is going to really deter any hardcore pedophile that these people have just released. This just goes to show that the government and the High Court even does not care for everyday Australians. They do not care about you. They do not care about your safety. They don't care that you're paying for these people out of your own pocket. We have enough issues here in Australia with the housing crisis, the impending financial collapse that we're going on, the massive inflation rate, the RBA's just increased rates yet again, and the Australian people have had enough. Apparently not, actually, because no one seems to be standing up and saying anything about it, and everyone keeps voting the same way as usual. So when it comes to the polling booths, make sure you remember these kind of things that these people have done to us, because I will, and I'll never forget the things that they did to us over the last few years, especially when they go and release 93 illegal immigrant criminals onto the Australian streets for them to reoffend and tax our system. When Australia is in such desperate need, I saw this story here the other day. It was Lismore. I have family in Lismore and the surrounding area. They suffered some tremendous floods over the last couple of years. Several times they were flooded, this whole town. Not to mention the year before that, they had massive fires and a lot of people died in those fires in New South Wales and across Australia. It was a horrendous year for fires and recently floods as well. Now, Lismore is a smallish town with, probably 50,000 people, I'd say, maybe more. And a lot of them are homeless. A lot of them are living in places that are condemned because of the flood damage. And this short TikTok here just goes to show like the tiniest bit of devastation those floods cause. I mean, we saw the place after the fires. I haven't been down there since the fires, but thanks COVID and all that. But it just goes to show that the Australian government doesn't care about you. They do not care about locals. They do not care about the people who vote them in. So why do you keep voting them in? Now, Lismore's a country town. It's in northern New South Wales, and a lot of the people there have been hard done to by these recent floods and fires, and they seem to be forgotten here. This is just one town of many in the area as well that has been forgotten by the Australian government. And we'll just have a look at this short TikTok here, shall we?
Tell me you live in Lismore without telling me you live in Lismore. I'll go first.
Now, that should just show you some of the devastation there, but we'll read this story here. A TikToker has shared an insight in the state of Lismore almost 2 years after record-breaking floods engulfed the town. 2 years. And this place is still run down like that. And we, as an entire, apparently fantastic country, can't seem to help our own people. We're sending money overseas to fight foreign wars. We're sending our own people over there as well. And we can't find $5 of our money, and 5 minutes of our time to help our own. But we can release criminals and pay up to $180,000 a month for those criminals to be released here in Australia. A young woman has shared an insight to the local daily lives of flood-affected northern New South Wales residents by posting a heartbreaking video. TikToker Demi from Lismore showed a case of the current situation of in town by driving through previously flooded streets. The devastating impact of the northern New South Wales northern rivers floods can be seen even 22 months after high water swamped the region. In the video, she shows the aftermath people don't see from the floods, which includes abandoned housing, university accommodation, and people still living in caravans while they repair their homes. Lismore was severely impacted by major floods in February 2022, damaging more than 6,000 homes and wiping out nearly every business in the area. Thousands of people left over the past year have many restricted by mortgages have not been able to follow. Tell me if you live in Lismore without telling me you live in Lismore, Demi said. Lismore Major Steve Krieg said in the city is exactly as it is in the video. There's still 1,000 homes that look exactly like that. He says the residential situation in Lismore is terrible. In the TikTok, numerous properties can be seen fenced away from New South Wales government logo on the fence displaying the houses as part of the Resilient Homes program, more commonly known as the buyback scheme. With $700 million buyback scheme was announced in October last year, allowing eligible homeowners to have their home raised and repaired or voluntarily brought back, jointly funded by the former coalition New South Wales governments. Data has revealed that 2,685 applications made in Lismore for assistance under the program in the end of September. Only 16% have resulted in a buyback. The cost of each buyback is averaging $580,567. In addition, no houses have been raised, no repairs have been approved at all. 2 years. They come up with some sort of scheme to buy property so that the government owns it anyway. So they're going to be forking out on that and they're going to be making money off of that. And then the ones that are getting repaired or raised up, none of them have been done. None of them have been approved. Nothing has been approved at all. 2 years, and we are sending hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of our dollars overseas to fight foreign wars. And we can't fix anything in our own fucking country. This is appalling. We're supposed to be a fucking leading example to the rest of the world. That's what our government goes and portrays. We've got Anthony Albanese flying around the country and flying around the world at the moment, handing out visas like they're fucking party skittles, and he's just left Australia here to rot. They don't care about you. They don't care about your family. They don't care about the fucking suffering you were going through. This is what you get every time you vote the same way. It is time to get a third party in. It is time to vote in an independent or something. We have to do something. We cannot just keep repeating the same fucking issues. We go through this every time there's an election. They come out and say, oh, we're going to give you all the money and do all these famous things and miraculous things, and we'll make Australia fucking better than it ever has been. And they do not do that. They do not follow through with any of that. They fucking steal from your pocket every single chance they get. They go and give money to fucking foreign people blowing each other up overseas. They go and give it to them. They go and give it to fucking Israel and Palestine. We need the money here. This is our money. This is the fucking shit we fought for. This is what we go out to 80 hours a week I fucking work so I can put food on fucking table and pay my mortgage. There are a lot more people harder off than me. For fuck's sakes, look at this. They have left you to rot and die. They do not care. It is time that we did something about it. Australian people are fucking fed up. At least I know I am. And I know a lot of other people are. But we have this stupid she'll be right attitude where we just bumble along and expect the government to take care of us. Every time there's an issue, every time there's a flood, every time there's a fire, they go, oh, the government has to help. The government isn't here to help you. The government is here to kill you, to subjugate you, and to silence you. That is the only reason they exist. Other than to line their own pockets. We are funding wars overseas. We are sending drones to kill people in Sudan now. We do not need to be spending money on things like this. Your hands are not clean. If you voted this government in, you are one to blame. Learn from your mistakes. These people here in Lismore have suffered enough. It's going to happen again. Before Christmas and New Year's have come, we will be suffering even harder. Christmas this year, what's that going to look like for a lot of people? A lot of these people are living in fucking caravans. A lot of these people are living in people's backyards and friends' places. Rent for a room in my local town, for just a room, is over $250 just to rent the room. In a rural town in Queensland, it's over $250 a week to rent a bedroom so you can sleep in it and not be fucking homeless. Australia is on a decline that we are fast approaching the bottom, and we cannot stop it. If we can't take care of our own, we need to stop taking care of others. We don't need to spend $100 million in Ukraine. We don't need to spend hundreds of million dollars in Palestine. We don't need to be bringing in immigrants from China, 100,000, 500,000 from India. We do not need to be bringing in islanders from the Pacific. When we do not have homes, we do not have housing, we do not have jobs for people here in this country. We're a stagnant country. We are drowning under our own stupidity and laziness at this point. The government is not your friend. They are not your friend. They are not your ally. They do not want to help you. They are here to harm, subjugate, and imprison you. New misinformation act that they're trying to bring out, this new misinformation bill, they will imprison people like me. They will imprison people like you for thinking and saying things they disagree with. They will fine you, and when you do not pay those fines, you will go to jail. It's already happening in England. It happens in America, and they tote their freedom of speech like it's tattooed on their chest. No one is free anymore. The culture war that we are fighting every single day, we are slowly winning. But are you going to be in prison when that happens? Are you going to be broke and homeless? Are you going to be jobless? Are your kids going to be scrounging through bins to get food? Maybe it's easier if you come back without a passport. You swim out in the ocean, swim back ashore, claim refugee status. I mean, they might be better off. They might be the only option some people have got. Because they've got this housing here they're not even using. They built all those concentration camps for COVID patients. Why aren't we housing people in them? My local council's shutting down anyone who is living in a caravan park. They shut down a major caravan park in town and then are complaining that there's a whole bunch of homeless people now. I think they were paying about $300 a week rent in a caravan park. Every single tier of government is fucking the pooch. Every time. Whether it's the Australian federal government, whether it's state government, whether it's local government, every single one of them has fucked it up. The money disappears. I work with local government every day. I watch the money drain out of their coffers, which we fill, and it just goes down a hole. It disappears every day. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. I worked with them for the last decade, and I've seen millions and millions of dollars wasted. If I wrote a book, I'd probably put people in prison. They waste money every day. They do not care, even down to the bloke who's writing you a ticket or leaning on a shovel or mowing a lawn. If they work for the government, they do not care about you. They do not care for what you do, and they don't care about the Australian people. The attitude of she'll be right, mate, that you and I have been putting up with and been extending and just spruiking, the she'll be right, now we'll get it done because we've got a fucking hard attitude, and that, a lot of it rolls off our backs as an Australian. It's too late. Your children will be homeless. They will never be able to buy a house. They will not be able to get a job. You will be living in the street if it continues. Or you will be in prison for thought crime or something like that, or the new COVID strain or something like that, and you just be like, no, I'm not getting my 28th jab, my 28th booster. No. And the government will go, well, then you are a other and we are putting you away. The Australian government loves doing that. It is time the Australian people woke up and they had a look outside their door and started fixing things in their local community. What do you guys think anyway? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Just saved this person's life. There's two people in here, ripped the sheets off. Another hour, they would have been both dead. Fucking couldn't even hear him until we got right up to him.
Anthony Albanese has promised an extra $100 million in military aid for Ukraine after visiting the war-ravaged country.
Gas up, put the flames up.
We have more people that are sleeping rough than ever before in the history of Australia. There are 122,494 people who are homeless in Australia. I will repeat the number until it is in everyone's head. There are 122,494 homeless people in Australia. Not okay.
In the backyard! In the backyard! Get to the back of the house! Hose the owner! Hose that lady down!
Now, another thing that we've got to talk about here is this whole thing cost $450 million. And I've heard this referred to as a right-wing talking point. Well, let me quote the right-wing news agency, the ABC, who today said that the AEC estimated the cost of referendum about $450 million. Oh, so the AEC says it's about $450 million. $450 million.